The question is that this House do now adjourn. Elliot Colburn.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Could I begin by expressing how devastated I am that the member for Strangford isn't here to intervene on me? I heard that was a staple of adjournment debate, so I fear that I'm going to miss out on the opportunity. Nevertheless, I will soldier on and do what I can. Mr Deputy Speaker, I would like to address a growing concern in our community in Carshalton and Wallington, which is violent crime and antisocial behaviour, which demands our attention and is a huge concern to my constituents. And I'm delighted that my constituency neighbour, the member for Croydon South, is the Minister responding today, because he will know many of these issues already, and I'm delighted to be joined by the member for Sutton Cheam and Worcester Park as well, who will know full well some of the issues I plan to raise. And I would like to just start with a few recent examples of violent crime and antisocial behaviour within the constituency. On the 3rd of October, a man was fatally stabbed in Roundshaw, and that came just a week after a very tragic stabbing in the neighbouring borough of Croydon, which I know the Minister is very aware of as a constituency MP for Croydon. This has followed a number of recent attacks, not all of which in my constituency, some in neighbouring Croydon, including the very tragic case of a 15-year-old girl, but some have marked several of the many teenagers who have been killed on London streets so far in 2023, each one a tragedy. And in Wallington, a man sustained, thankfully, a non-life-threatening stab wound, and a woman suffered a hand injury in a knife attack in Birchwood Avenue only last Saturday. And I do want to thank the work of the police, because they did respond, and the police always do respond with the utmost professionalism, and they do a fantastic job. And, of course, the air ambulance and the NHS staff caring for the victims. But this is of concern because Carshalton and Wallington and the wider London Borough of Sutton has long enjoyed a reputation as being one of the safest boroughs in London, often competing with Richmond to be one of the safest boroughs in London. And violent crime is not something that we are necessarily used to. So seeing it happen on our streets over the course of the last few months is of real concern. And my inbox, and I know the inboxes of many of my colleagues across the capital, is often full of residents, concerned parents and others who feel vulnerable and unsafe because of the crime that is happening in their area. And this mustn't be allowed to continue. And I vividly remember one constituent writing to me after the attack in Roundshaw saying that she didn't feel safe to put her bins out in the dark, and how another had a teenage daughter who said that they did not want to leave the house for fear of being attacked, and we must not let that become the new normal in London, or anywhere for that matter. I'll gladly give way.
I thank my honourable friend for giving way, and he's making a powerful speech. But does he agree with me that when we see the sad news of a fatal stabbing outside Sutton Station of a 17-year-old boy, 17-year-old man, a young man, and indeed we had one in the Honourable Gentleman's town, the Honourable Minister's town of Croydon recently, of a 15-year-old. That is, not only do we have to lean into knife crime that sometimes is imported into Sutton, but it is actually making sure we can bring down the fear of crime as well, because often this is imported from gangs, but it's really important that we can reassure people that policing is there and we have a holistic view of knife crime in Sutton.
Absolutely, and I do want to thank my honourable friend and my constituency neighbour for that intervention. He is absolutely right about the need to bring down the fear of crime and the measures that we must take to do that, and I'd like to hear a bit more from the Minister about what steps the Home Office are doing in that respect. And he's absolutely right on reassurance, and I will go into that in a bit more detail, but I would just like to pay tribute to him for his time as one of the longest serving ministers for London and the work that he did in this space. He's been a fantastic champion for his constituency in the capital, and he's a great loss to government, so I'm pleased to have him back on the backbenches though, helping me advocate for our fantastic borough of Sutton. Just a few weeks ago, on the 30th October, a 15-year-old boy was minding his own business and was approached by another teenage boy who led him to a block of flats where 3 other teenagers, armed with knives, awaited, and the young victim was robbed of his phone. And this incident is one of many that underscores the vulnerability of our youth and the audacity of those who will prey on our children. And our children's minds should be free to explore, not occupied with threats to their lives. But sadly, this incident is not isolated, and our community has sadly witnessed rises in house break-ins, people trying car doors. One of the most common things I see on social media, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is ring doorbell footage of people trying car doors or front doors of late at night in our community, which really does make people feel violated and scared in their own homes, and that cannot be right. And these doorbell cameras are a testament to deterring crime in their own right, and I encourage my constituents to get one, because thankfully the amount I've seen where someone has clocked that they have a ring doorbell camera and they have turned away from that house, that's fantastic. But it is awful the amount of times that footage does come up on social media. There's another incident that's fairly distressing, which I'd just like to raise notice of, which was of a 4-year-old child who was slapped at a bus stop just a couple of weeks ago. And though details are still emerging, and I don't want to prejudice any investigations in any of the cases that I raised today, I think this incident underscores the urgency with which we must tackle the root causes of knife crime and antisocial behaviour in our community, because no child, no parent and no person should be left with the weight of that sort of trauma or feeling unsafe in their own community. Now, just to give a few statistics, in the last year, thefts are up 31%, sexual offences are up 43%, and robberies are up 58% in our area. And these statistics are alarming, but they are more alarming because they are not part of a national trend, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Across the whole of the United Kingdom, crime has fallen since 2010, and I know that the Minister will want to expand on the government's record on bringing crime down since 2010. So we must ask ourselves, why is it only within London that we see that trend not being played out? And some responsibility, in fact quite a lot of responsibility, I would argue, must rest on the shoulders of the Police and Crime Commissioner for London, who also happens to be the Mayor of London. We have seen London benefit from the massive increase in police officers. We met our manifesto commitment of 20,000 new police officers, and 3,666 of those are working on the streets of London. And yet we are seeing this worrying trend with crime levels in London. And even just this past week, the Mayor of London has been caught out misleading Londoners for statistics about crime in London. If the Mayor of London is not prepared to put the work in and spend his time jetting off around the world trying to sell his book, trying to legalise weed or whatever it is that he's interested in doing other than actually getting on with his job, we can't leave criminals to be taking over the streets of London. So I would really like to understand what work that the Home Office is doing with the Metropolitan Police to make sure that they can recapture the trust of Londoners and get on with the job of deterring and catching criminals, ensuring that our constituents, both the ministers, my honourable friend for Sutton, Cheam and Worcester Park and my own, are kept safe. I do absolutely welcome the increase in police numbers, but we are facing unique challenges on the fringes of London, where a significant number of officers are regularly transferred away for major events in central London where they need help policing, leaving only minimal presence in outer London. So I would like to hear a bit more from the Minister on the work that he is doing in the Home Office with the Metropolitan Police to address this promptly, to ensure that when those big events are happening in central London, neighbourhood and local policing does not suffer in outer London. But collaboration between the police and local communities is of course also paramount, and policing is only half the battle. I absolutely want to continue advocating for increased police presence. We all want to see bobbies back on the beat, and it's great to see those new police officers getting out there in our communities doing just that. But we also have to tackle the causes of crime and antisocial behaviour along the way, and education is a crucial step to doing that. And we've seen how that's worked in other parts of the world, even here in the United Kingdom, where Glasgow was once the most violent city in the whole of Europe, and they took a different approach to violent crime and have seen that reputation be turned around and driven down that number. Now, we were promised in London a violence reduction unit which would tackle knife crime in a similar way, and yet we have seen absolutely no results as a result of that violence reduction unit. There's little transparency about who sits on it, what work they're doing, if they've met, what they've spoken about when they meet. The violence reduction unit for London has not achieved anything because we, as I said earlier in my speech, London is not following the national trend of crime at the moment. So in conclusion, Mr Deputy Speaker, the challenges that we face are daunting, but the spirit of our community is always resilient. We must do all that we can to tackle violent crime and antisocial behaviour and reclaim the safety and security of my constituents in Carshalton and Wallington, but of course across the whole of London as well. We need to ensure that we have a constant and visible police presence on the streets of Sutton. We need to ensure that people are aware of the consequences of criminal activity, but also educate them to prevent them from turning to crime in the first place, particularly when it comes to our young people. And I know that I will not stop raising these issues, and I know that my honourable friends will not stop raising them too, because until we reach a point where no one lives in fear and our community thrives and values and protects each other, then we would not have achieved those aims. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. Minister.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. It's a pleasure to respond to the honourable member for Carshalton and Wallington. I congratulate him for securing this adjournment debate and for his extremely powerful and eloquent speech, which furthers his tireless campaigning on this issue, very often in partnership with his constituency neighbour, the honourable member for Sutton and Cheam, who is here this evening and has contributed already. This is an incredibly important topic. I say that not just as the Minister for Police and Crime, but also as the member for Carshalton and Wallington's constituency neighbour on the other side, a fellow South London MP. So I also see at first hand the effect of knife crime and serious violence on our communities. And in particular, in Croydon, but I think across all of South London, we've felt for the family of Eliane Andam, the 15-year-old girl who was brutally murdered on the morning of September the 27th. The whole community was incredibly moved and mourns her loss, and I went to her funeral with others, many others. About 1,000 people attended that funeral just a few weeks ago. It really had a profound impact on the whole borough, and I think more widely across South London. And I think it means we all need to redouble our efforts to end the scourge of knife crime and serious violence. Because although serious violence is down by 25% over the last 4 years, even though homicide has reduced this year compared to last year, it's lower than it was in 2010. Every single death, every single incidence of serious violence or homicide is an individual tragedy, and we need to do more to get the figures down even further. In terms of the government's work in this area, we've obviously delivered record police numbers, 149,566 across England and Wales, more police than we've ever had before, and that includes more police than we've ever had before across London, across the Metropolitan Police. However, as the member for Sutton, for Carshalton and Wallington pointed out, the Mayor of London, as London's Police and Crime Commissioner, Sadiq Khan, has been pretty deficient in managing the police force, and although there are record numbers in the Met thanks to government funding, there could have been an extra 1,089 officers, another 1,000 officers more. There was government funding available to recruit those officers in the Met, but thanks to his ineptitude, the Mayor of London failed to recruit them. He has also seen knife crime in London increasing on his watch. He rather shamefully made a claim to the contrary and was publicly rebuked by the Office for National Statistics for making misleading claims. So quite clearly, in London particularly, the Mayor of London needs to do a lot more to tackle knife crime. Let me just set out, Mr Deputy Speaker, some of the things the government is doing in this area. One of those is funding violence reduction units across the 20 police force areas where violent crime is the most serious. And those violence reduction units, managed by the Police and Crime Commissioners but funded by the government, are designed to make early interventions to identify often young people who are on the wrong track, to try and put them on the right track, whether that's through educational interventions, through social services work, through sporting activity, whatever it may be. And we intend to continue supporting and expanding the work of violence reduction units, supported by the Youth Endowment Fund, who have £200 million of government money. We also want to stop the supply of knives getting onto our streets in the first place. And that is why we're legislating, both in the Criminal Crime and Justice Bill and through secondary legislation, to ban certain zombie knives and machetes that are currently legal, to increase the penalty for selling knives, doubling the sentence for selling knives to an under 18, and also giving the police additional powers to seize knives, legal knives, that are held in private if they think they're going to be used for criminal purposes. In terms of selling knives online, the Online Safety Act, which got royal assent just a few weeks ago, will, when fully in force, require online marketplaces like Facebook Marketplace to proactively prevent the sale of illegal knives online, again, choking off the supply of these illegal knives into our communities.
Will the Minister give way?
Of course.
I'm very grateful to the Minister for giving way, and I wonder if he would just join with me in paying tribute to two people. First, Ray and Vi Donovan, who are an incredible couple living in my constituency, who helped bring a knife bin to the centre of Sutton, and there's been some truly horrific things found in that knife bin, but thankfully are off the streets. He mentioned the Online Safety Act as well, and I just wondered if he would join me in congratulating the member for Sutton and Cheam, who was the Minister who took the Online Safety Bill through Parliament in its final stages, who managed to secure this important measure to stop knives being sold.
Minister?
Yes, well, I certainly would join the honourable member in paying tribute to his constituent and the work on the knife bin. We need to have more of those around. And yes, indeed, the honourable member for Sutton and Cheam did take the Online Safety Bill through its concluding stages in the House of Commons. I was involved in the bill earlier in its passage, but I think he was the minister who finally, after a number of years and a number of ministers as well, got it over the line, and it got royal assent a few weeks ago. Look, it's also important, I think, to take action on the streets as well. And although it sometimes attracts controversy, stop and search is an important way of getting knives off our streets. Each month, the Metropolitan Police takes about 400 knives off the street through stop and search, and done lawfully and done respectfully, it is an important part of the police's arsenal, and I would like to see the police being more proactive and using stop and search more, using it more confidently, using it more widely to get those knives off the street. If you look at, some people raise concerns about disproportionality. If you look at the success rate for finding knives or drugs on those people who are stopped and searched, the percentage of stop and searches resulting in a find of knives or drugs, which is between about 25 and 28% typically, is exactly the same, or virtually exactly the same, across all ethnic groups, suggesting that allegations the police are behaving unfairly are without foundation. So I would like to see more stop and search being used. In addition to that, the Home Office is investing in some technology, or the development of technology, which will be able to scan, covertly even, scan for knives as people walk down the street. That's about a year or so away from being deployable, but it is something that we are investing in and I would like to see deployed on our streets. We're also investing in hotspot patrolling. There's a project called GRIP where there are hotspot patrols in areas where serious violence is a particular problem. We're also running antisocial behaviour hotspot patrols in some force areas, and those are going to be rolled out across the whole country from next April. And we found that where those hotspot patrols take place, antisocial behaviour and serious violence drop noticeably, which is why we're going to be increasing funding for hotspot patrols across the country from April. I'd like to finally, Mr Deputy Speaker, just draw attention to the importance of catching perpetrators and using technology to do so. And the member for Carshalton and Wallington mentioned CCTV footage and the availability of that these days, whether it's CCTV footage from shops or local authorities, ring doorbells in people's houses, dashcam footage, or footage taken on mobile phones. There's a lot of images now available. And the facial recognition algorithm the police can run to take an image of someone, a criminal committing a crime, from any of those things, CCTV, mobile phones and so on, and then run that through the police database, can now produce remarkably accurate matches, even where the image isn't particularly clear. And so I would urge all police forces to redouble their efforts to always run those images through the Police National Database, do the facial recognition search, and the evidence so far suggests that a lot of perpetrators who would previously not have been caught now can be caught using retrospective facial recognition, which is what I've just described. So, Mr Deputy Speaker, I'd just like to thank again the member for Carshalton and Wallington for securing this debate. It is a really important topic, not just in South London or London more widely, but across the whole country. A lot of progress has been made, but there is more to do. Every single injury or death is a tragedy, and all of us in Parliament and in government must work together with the police and others to make sure we do everything humanly possible to end the scourge of knife crime, which is far too frequent at the moment.
Thank you very much. The question